Almost got it ready, guys. Hey, so hopefully everybody can hear me okay. This is your second video lesson. This is over Module 5, Lesson 10. This was the second new lesson I sent you guys to do this week. So today we're going to be talking about volume of a cylinder and volume of a cone. So two more different volume formulas in addition to the one that we looked at in the last lesson, which was a rectangular prism. So without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with it. I'm going to put some announcements for you guys at the end of the video as well about some stuff coming up, okay? So I will see you guys then. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with talking about how to find the volume of a right cylinder. And then we're going to look at its volume formula, and then we're going to work through problem number 1 from lesson 10. So that was the first problem that you guys had to work on. All right, so first things first, let's take a look at the formula itself and see what all is in it. So in order to find the volume of a cylinder, you multiply pi by the radius squared and by the height of the cylinder. So all three of those things will be multiplied together. So now, according to order of operations, the first thing you guys do is you're going to square the radius, whatever that number may be. So sometimes you'll get different kinds of instructions when you're working with this type of formula. It may say to write your answer in terms of pi, or it may tell you to just round to a certain number. Your problem today does not, so we're just going to go ahead and round to 1 decimal place, okay? So with our first one we do today, we're actually going to, it's kind of a bit of a special case, but just in terms of the rest of the lesson, feel free to round to 1 decimal place, and that will be fine. Okay, so another way you might see the formula written, and the way you'll see me writing it in the lesson when we're working it out, is I'll use abbreviations. So instead of volume, I'll use a V. Instead of radius, I'll use R. Instead of height, I'll use H. So, like I mentioned before, we have to find the radius and the height before we can actually find the volume of a cylinder. But fortunately, these are already given to us in our problem today. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to that. So give me just a second. All right, guys. So we are back. And now we're going to be looking at the first problem from the lesson, which is problem number 1 on page 118. So we're going to try to find the volume of the cylinder. So we're going to use the formula that we talked about on the notes page. I'm going to go ahead and pause and put that on the screen for you guys to look at. Okay, so if you look here, I now have the formula for finding the volume of a right cylinder on the screen. So we're going to multiply pi times the radius squared times the height. And something I didn't actually point out earlier that I'm going to go ahead and do now is pi r squared is how we're going to find the area of one of the bases of the cylinder. So we take that and we multiply that times the height. So in a way, it's actually similar to the formula for finding the volume of a rectangular prism. Now, I want you guys to go ahead and pause the video and try to fill in the information that you know from the problem and see if you can plug the numbers into the equation in the correct spots. And then I'm going to be back with it plugged in for you. Okay, guys, so here's what we have with the values plugged in, where they go. So if you look here, we have a radius of 1 feet or 1 foot, and then we also have a height of 1 foot. So I plugged those numbers in where they go for the R and for the H, and now we can work it out. So here, this one's actually going to be some pretty simple math if you take a look at it. We have 1 squared is just 1. So in my next step, I'll have that the volume is equal to pi. And for the record, if you guys don't have a pi button or function on the calculator using, whether that's on your phone or using an actual one, feel free to just use 3.14 for this, and that will be fine as well. So this is multiplied times 1, and then also times 1. So what we're going to have here for our volume after we multiply these three together is we are just going to have pi, because it's pi times 1 times 1. So for my answer, I would have pi, or if you guys aren't using a calculator with a pi function, you can write your answer as 3.14 would be fine. You don't have to write out any more spaces than that. So 3.14. Now let's check and see what our unit is here. So this is a three-dimensional object. So I'm going to have my unit cubed, but it's feet, so it's going to be feet cubed. And there we are. So our answer for this one is pi, or 3.14 feet cubed. All right, so now we're going to kick it back over to the notes page and take a look at how to find the volume of a cone, and then we'll come back to the practice problems. And we're back. So give me just a moment to zoom in. Okay, having some technical difficulties. Give me just a sec. Okay, guys, looks like I got it figured out. So now we are talking about finding the volume of a cone. So it's going to have a slightly different formula. So we're going to talk about how it's different and what parts are the same. So if you look here, the volume of a cone in words, we have volume is equal to 1/3 times pi times the radius squared times height. So if you'll remember from looking at the cylinder, this part is the same, pi times radius squared times height. The only thing new we have added is the 1/3. So in this way, what we're looking at is that cylinders and cones are proportional to each other, in that if you can find the height and the area of the base, you will have a like 1/3 of the volume if those information are the same. So now, here are a couple other ways you might see this formula written. You might also see it be written as volume is equal to pi times radius squared times height divided by 3, which will be my preferred way of writing it, and it's how I'm going to write it for you all on a practice problem. And then you may also see it using all abbreviations similar to the first one, where we had V is equal to 1/3 pi r squared h. And remember, radius is going to be represented by an r, height is represented by h, and volume is represented by V. So now we're going to go ahead and go back over to the other practice problem from today's lesson, and I'm going to work through that one with you. All right, awesome, guys. Looks like a transition went a lot smoother this time. Still working to learn how to work with this stuff too, so you guys are going to have to bear with me from time to time. All right. So let's go with blue. Now, we are going to find the volume of this cone using the formula we just talked about. So that I'm going to use the pi r squared h divided by 3. So give me just a moment to write that on. All right, so here we go. Let's take a look at what we have again. So remember, basically what we have here is the volume of a cylinder with the same proportions, and then we're going to divide it by 3. So if you look here, we have a radius of 2.8 centimeters and a height of 4.3 centimeters. So you need to rewrite the formula with those numbers plugged in. So pause the video, see if you can plug them in yourselves, and then I'll show you what mine looks like. All right, guys, so I'm hoping what you wrote down looks something similar to what I have here. we would plug in the number 2.8 and substitute that in for R. We'll plug in 4.3 and substitute that for H. So now what we have here is everything we need to work out to find the volume. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to square 2.8, and then I'm going to multiply that by pi and by 4.3. So I'm going to show that in 2 steps to you guys. Okay, so hopefully you guys were able to figure this part out too. I squared 2.8. That would be the first thing in order of operations I would do in this formula. And that gives me pi times 7.84 times 4.3. And this is all now going to be divided by 3. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the multiplication and division in the same step. So I'm going to multiply these 3 numbers together. And then I'm going to divide that by 3. And remember, you can round to 1 decimal place if you would like. So round to the tenths. And feel free to do that on all of your problems today when applicable. Round to the tenths place. Sorry, I'm writing this on camera, so it's taking me a bit. So round to the tenths place. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and work out that math for you guys and show you guys what you should get if you did it correctly. All right, guys, so hopefully you didn't have any trouble putting that in your calculator or however you're choosing to do it. But when you multiply all the top numbers together and then divide by 3, you should get an answer that rounds to approximately 35.3 using the approximation sign since I rounded. So remember I said round to the tenths place, so I rounded just 1 decimal place. Okay, so that is how we'll use the 2 formulas today, how you'll use the formula for finding the volume of a cylinder and how you'll use the formula for finding the volume of a cone. So now if you'll take a look at your remaining problems today, you need to complete problems 3 and problem 4. And those are going to be practicing using each of the formulas again on your own. So if you look here at number 3, you're going to use the formula for finding a cylinder. And if you take a look at number 4, you're going to use the second formula we talked about, which was the formula for finding the volume of a cone. If you guys have any questions or if you need anything clarified from the video, feel free to ask me in an email or comment on the YouTube video. Both will get through to me. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and bring myself back up to make a couple of announcements to you guys. All right, still here. Cool. Got it all set up. So if any of you guys have been watching the videos or having to look at the problems off of something like a phone and that's giving you guys some trouble, if you guys have internet close to you, you can actually pick up a Chromebook tomorrow at one of the campuses. So when I share this with you in a email link, I'll list also the locations for that if you guys are interested. And then I believe they've also are potentially getting some hotspots up and running maybe. So should be some more details on that coming to you soon if you haven't already seen it. So you guys have any questions at all, feel free to ask me. And also, so Friday, I'm going to be having a Zoom meeting for all the 8th grade by itself for you guys to be able to chime in and ask me any questions you may have. I'm going to be actually doing my algebra classes at 2 o'clock, and then I'll be doing you guys at 3 o'clock. So feel free to join that, ask any questions you may have, and I'll be sending out the details you need for that coming up too. So hope to hear from some of you guys soon, and if you need any help, once again, feel free to ask me. All right, I'll see you guys. Bye now.